I'm just a night owl. I've always known that since I've been young. I was told that it was really hard to get me to bed. I love living. I don't want the day to be over. I do this thing where I like go into my day bed as like the segue into the final bed, and then I end up crashing there anyways because I don't actually like going to bed. But it's a weird thing. I don't want the day to end.
All right, guys. Robbie Jade Lew here today. The latest podcast I've ever filmed.
Really? Yeah. That's actually really interesting because it's pretty early for me.
8 p.m. is early for you?
Yeah, it's pretty early for me. I'm like, oh, let's get this night started, or the day, really.
So you're a partier. You're a night owl.
I'm just a night owl. I've always known that since I've been young. I was told that it was really hard to get me to bed. And it was one of those things like, I just love living, I guess, in a way. This is what I've told myself. I love living. I don't want the day to be over.
Feel that.
So I do this thing where I like go into my day bed as like the segue into the final bed. And then I end up crashing there anyways because I don't actually like going to bed. I do enjoy sleep once I get to sleep because it's also kind of hard to get me up. But it's a weird thing. I don't want the day to end.
Wow. So what's the average time you're sleeping like?
I have like this. I've decided I'm on a different sleep cycle. I've actually gone to sleep therapy for this, like where you actually have to sleep inside of a sleep clinic and be like connected to all these notes to figure out what the hell's wrong with you. And according to that sleep expert, a physician actually, he actually informed me that some people are just on a different cyclical cycle. I don't even know if that's proper English that I said right there, but that like not every human was meant to be in a 24-hour cycle. And for me, he said mine's is like more closer to like a 34.
Whoa.
So it's completely off. Like I'll go through like periods of time where I can sleep from like 9 to 11 hours. I'm not kidding. And then just be awake for like 25.
Holy crap.
And not be tired at all when I'm awake.
They say like when you're awake for 24 hours, you lose some brain function.
I don't. In fact, I feel like as the day goes on and it moves forward, I start like thinking about newer and brighter and bigger ideas to the point where I'm like jotting them down. And I feel like my scope of understanding the world just kind of like broadens as the day goes on. And the interesting thing is it happens more when the sun goes down.
That is interesting. So you really are a night owl then.
I'm a night owl.
So you probably hit the tables late while everyone else is tired and you're wide awake.
I'm actually the person that's always the last to leave. I really am. I'm like, I hate to say this, and you never want to be the last person to leave a party. Like I'm always the last person. I probably am the only reason the game ends is when I decide to leave. Because I'll never leave when I'm winning. But I also won't leave when I'm losing, because that's like a known thing. You don't usually leave when you're losing if you're like stuck or whatnot. It's usually the people that are stuck that are still hanging with me. But I will. It has nothing to do with how much I win. I will win. I will get lucky in 3 pots, and most intelligent and disciplined human beings will leave. I won't. I'll just stay, because for me, it's not about like how much I leave with. It's just for love of the game. And if there's one thing I realized about me, I just love poker so much, it's hard to get me out.
Wow. So you're just a fan of the actual game.
I just am. And it's one of those really weird things where like, I lived I guess most people know this now. I'm not like your typical, like I've been playing poker since I was like in my teens, and now I'm in my 20s and I've decided to drop out of college and become like this poker player. I mean, those guys have like the years of experience behind them. I'm the type of person that actually had a completely different career in this biopharmaceutical biotech industry where I thrived enough to have enough of a bankroll where I could finally see what I do that I love. And really, if the pandemic never happened, I wouldn't even be playing poker full time like I do right now. It really was that it gave me the opportunity to kind of hone in on my hobby, one being poker. And I realized that I've lived most of my life doing, what made me money, which I actually did enjoy. I mean, I did pick a career I did enjoy. It's always fun to be doing really well in a career. So it's hard, but ultimately it was a golden handcuffs type of situation. It's really nice once you buy your house and you have everything you need, like you're kind of like, okay, I felt a little stuck, and the pandemic happened at the right time for me where I realized that well, you know what they always say, if you're doing what you love, there's a way to monetize it. And I wasn't really thinking about monetizing it. I just had enough money, I guess, to lose at the time, which I hate to say. I mean, it's kind of like it's probably not the best thing to be saying, but at that time, and I'm definitely more wary about that now, at that time, I wasn't thinking about like, this is going to cost me a lot because I'm jumping into a place where I probably don't belong. I was just thinking about doing something I loved. And I realized that I was able to do it at the time. I didn't know how long it was going to last. It ended up obviously lasting a much longer time than I thought. But what I did realize is that if it's going to cost me a little bit, it's okay, because I really enjoyed getting up every day and deciding when I wanted to get up and when I wanted to sleep.
Respect.
And the other thing I realized is that like I do love the game a lot. Doesn't matter what stakes it is, and it doesn't even matter if it's cash or tournaments. I like tournaments a little bit more, but they require a little bit more discipline as far as like.
Shout out to today's sponsor, Specialized Recruiting Group. When your company has a position to fill, are you really seeing the best candidates? Sure, you get plenty of resumes, but you may be missing an untapped resource. Ideal candidates who are not currently job searching. People who are not actively looking, but who may be open to the right opportunity. It could be the difference between a good hire and a great hire. Specialized Recruiting Group is ready to find the talent you need. Go to srgpros.com, see how our recruitment specialists with a deep understanding of experience and expertise you need can find the right fit for your business. After all, you deserve to see the best candidates possible, both active and passive. Whether you're looking for a contract or a direct hire, Specialized Recruiting Group is ready to find the talent you need. So go to srgpros.com right now to get started. That's srgpros.com. Specialized Recruiting Group, a tailored approach to hiring.
Time management is concerned. Cash, you could just start and end whenever you want. And I love it so much. I could play online, live, whatever it is. I just love the game. I love it enough that I'm even expanding and learning mixed games and all kinds of different types of poker. So
that's a hot take. I feel like people like the cash games more than tournaments.
That's because they're kind of like the immediate gratification. They don't have like that discipline to do like the longevity of like
Nick Airball.
Yeah, and there's also like a little bit like bankroll, I guess, like bullyism kind of can come out in like cash games a little bit more. And the feeling of like you don't have to get up and rebuy and, get back in a line to do so. You can just kind of sort of like add chips on and continue to play. And of course, it's just the ability to decide when you're done playing. And unless like you're in a live stream, we're kind of committed to a certain time that you want to be playing. But yeah, I think with cash games, there's a certain type that prefers that over tournament play. But really, the best players are the ones that can do both.
Yeah. How do you feel about people that win a big hand and then they dip out of the table? Because I see people get pissed off about that.
I mean, those type of people just won't be invited back as often as they want to be. And I think that there is a certain type of like hidden sort of level of respect that everybody has to kind of they're secretly signing up for when they're invited to a game. And look, if you want to like won a lot of money and you have no expectations of being back, you can be that guy. But one thing I have learned about the poker community, because it is relatively small versus other industries, is that word gets around. So whether you owe someone money or you made like a disrespectful move against somebody, like people do hear about it, people talk, and there's a lot of rumors. Of course, they're not always accurately portrayed. You're not always accurately portrayed. There's a lot of like lies out there, but there's just enough smoke where you might have to explain yourself in another game, or you just might realize that you're not getting the invitation that you were getting before. And that's really shitty if this is your profession.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of big YouTube channels that cover drama, poker drama.
Yeah,
they have a lot of power and influence, right?
Yeah, I had my moments with them, and they I would see them at a certain like meet and greet or something, and I've had like Alex Duvall come up and like kind of apologize and sort of explain to me that that's just his MO and that's like how he navigates through the poker world. And look, we are all kind of like we're all victim to it a little bit, but we also are. I am somebody that has kind of like occasionally kind of graced like the topic of the hour, and I'm very grateful that somebody has done enough of an investigation where you can kind of like make your own determinations as far as what you believe about the issue at hand when it comes to poker drama. But poker drama, unfortunately, is something that I realized and I hadn't realized is a big part of that industry. And I feel like people get bored and they're just waiting for the next scandal. And there always seems to be a scandal, whether it's like a cheating scandal. Now there's like the whole like, Me Too movement coming back around with what's happening in the poker community. And that's a lot to talk about. But the poker, unfortunately, the dark side and the side that I'm not too like proud of when it comes to me saying that I'm like kind of in this industry is the side that I feel like people really kind of want to like have this like sort of like avenue to sort of troll and get the dirty on individuals that they might be a little envious towards. I think there's a lot of envy in the industry, and the best way to kind of release that sort of like tension and feelings towards individuals is to sort of feed off of the drama of those that maybe annoyed you in the past and made more money than you, unfortunately. So I feel like there's a lot of that in there. There's a huge discrepancy when it comes to like high stakes versus low stakes, and those that have a seat at the table and those who do not.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I find fascinating about the industry that's really interesting and like I think is very, very cool is like, you know, it's just one of those things where like you don't need a resume to play poker. It's not like a job that I have to interview for. All I need to do is find a seat at that table. And it just takes being a certain type of person to get a seat at the table. It's not really that hard. As a woman, it's a lot easier.
Right.
Right. So that argument can absolutely be made, but you just want to have enough respect for the community to get a seat at the table, but you don't have to interview for it, and your resume doesn't need to be long.
Yeah, I could see that envy because there's like a new era of these poker stars that are getting tons of views, and these guys have been playing for years, not getting recognition, so they could be a little upset, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, look, old school poker is still something I find fascinating, and I'm going back to like the old books of like mixed games because like the tried and true methods still do work today, but like there are the newer methods, and there's, you know, Daniel Negron. You can talk about this a little bit more, like those guys that are playing to a certain level of like competition where they realize that like the theoretical approach or game theory is really something that everybody needs to be honing in on if they want to thrive. Because there's a lot of good poker players today. And that has to just do with technological advancements and also just people that are, we have some great coaches. It's really hard to even recommend the right type of coaching site or coach to anybody because we have so many tools that are available to us now that you really could be a very, very, very good and possibly profitable enough poker player to thrive in the industry today. However, the competition is really fierce. And the ones that really, I think, can compete with the rest are those that are staying up to date with like the newer methods of the theoretical approaches of the young people, because that's what they're learning. And you'll see that the younger guys are doing very, very well, especially online.
Right.
That being said, technology has also created this like alternative avenue and unfortunate like concern for like, you know, cheating online and stuff. And like RTA is just the beginning. Which is real-time assistance. That's just the beginning. But like now we have like all these other issues that we have to be concerning of. Like they've taken away our phones and live streams. And I do feel like we're getting really close to a place where they might be like limiting the use of sunglasses and even taking away our phones during tournament play, which is going to be really detrimental to a lot of people.
I'd be
like,
so bored.
Oh my gosh, I'd like absolutely lose my mind. If anything, it slows me down and it keeps me from playing every hand like I want to play.
Right.
Because I have something else to kind of like do. But yeah, the live stream guys fascinate me. I played a lot of poker with them, and I feel like those who embrace them that are of like the older generation, like Phil Hellmuth, they're the people that are really going to see themselves also advancing, because live stream poker is the future, because content creating is the future, and the technological advancements that we have. And I feel like the AI, first and foremost, I think is the future. I mean, if there's anything that I find more fascinating than anything is AI, and I'm curious to see how that's incorporated into the industry.
Yeah. I mean, the live streamers are getting more views than almost anyone in the space, right?
For sure.
Like
and
even the World Series events, they were getting more views than the World Series videos.
Yeah, because the problem with the poker community is it's really niche. So those that like the top poker players, nobody really knows of outside of like in the mainstream world. And I'm talking more specifically outside of like the ones that we do know, which are the old school kind of type of players that have been around since a really young age, like Daniel Negreanu and Phil Hellmuth. I feel like, and Phil Ivey, those are notable names that maybe people outside of the poker community know of. But outside of that, there are players that we know to be top of the line that nobody would even have would have never even heard of in mainstream media, but they'll hear about like, you know, the person that's doing, I don't even want to throw out names or anything like that, but like, I just saw a really young guy. I'm like, wow, he has like a lot of views and nobody in the poker community really knows about him, but there needs to be some kind of like segue or some kind of like assimilation that we do have with the mainstream if we want the sport to grow. And I feel like those younger kids, and even not even the young kids, just anybody who's interested in kind of doing the live streaming version of it and sort of like the YouTube version or the YouTube world of poker, I think that they're really going to we're finally going to see some kind of integration where more people know about poker than it's understood right now. Because you'll even see like the fame in the poker world is only in the poker world.
Right.
You know, outside of Las Vegas, like most of the really well-known people in the poker community can go grocery shopping without being recognized. When you walk into a casino and you're a very good poker player, you know, of course you're going to get hounded and asked for photos and everything like that. But it's kind of like nice to have that level of privacy in the public world. But I do feel like these live streamers that are kind of out there that maybe the poker community doesn't recognize or doesn't want to or refuses to recognize are the ones that are going to be recognized as poker players in the mainstream world.
They probably get recognized more, to be honest.
Yeah, they do. And I feel like that's really fascinating. I think that those that can somehow incorporate the fact that this younger generation is more interested in integrating the outside world with the inside world of poker, I think that they're going to find like a higher level of happiness, because happiness comes with acceptance, than those that just choose to kind of like live in their own little poker worlds. Like the term of poker nerds came from that, right? If you want to be like a dorky poker nerd that just wants to live in your poker world and make a lot of money and do your thing. And I mean, look, let's be honest, poker players, most of them don't really have the most like comforting and like good, like lovely presence about them that everybody wants to be around. Yeah. Most of them are not the type of personalities that you want to see talk.
They're similar to chess players, because I play chess and I see a very similar mindset with both.
Yeah. And you kind of have to have that, right? Like there's like a lot of them have like, and we were talking about this earlier, there's a lot of them that are really autistic players that are really, really good poker players. You know, I have a cousin like that. And like, it's so wild. Like when I found out that he was autistic, I was thinking, oh my gosh, he should play poker. I mean, it's like that was like the first inclination that I had, like that I thought that I had, which is really odd of me to think. But they have a way with numbers. Not all of them. It depends on what type of autism you have. But they tend to do really well because they tend to be quiet and really like see things. And there are certain skill sets that I think are very successful at the poker table that aren't in the real world. So you'll see those that are like the more sociable poker players that also are good enough at playing poker are the ones that kind of have more of a voice and a presence in the poker community and outside of the poker community, you know. And I'm just really curious to see where the industry kind of goes in the next 10 years or 15 years. I feel like we're going to see a lot of changes. And I think that where we're going to see growth is in those that can accept the technological advancements and the ways of thinking of the younger generation that's incorporating it more on like a public platform online.
Absolutely. You were just on a poker reality TV show, right?
Yeah, like I'm on a couple of poker reality type of TV shows. You always wonder what's going to get picked up or not. But one of their main arguments, actually, it's a huge network, was, and we're still filming, was that poker is really boring to the world. So, you know, like at first I was thinking, I don't want to bring my like personal life into it. And we all know that reality TV does obviously include a personal life, but they'd never done that before. They never actually took a poker player and had them like, what does their life look like? Their family lives, their like lives with their spouses and loved ones. Like, what does that world look like outside of like a poker player schedule, which is really outlandish and seems really absurd to those that kind of live on a basic 9-to-5 life. And and they're like, no, we need to incorporate this type of like understanding of how you live your life because nothing else is interesting about you guys. I was like, you know, and I don't blame them. And there's also the other idea, like I've had people come that just wanted to come to a game with me. I didn't realize how bored they would be. Like when I'm playing in a poker game and I'm sitting at the table, I'm having the time of my life. Like for me, whether I'm losing or winning, I don't even realize that an hour went by. But for somebody watching you, every minute is like the most painful, long minute of their life.
They're adrenaline junkies, right?
Yeah. So you have to think about that. Why would anybody want to see that on TV? So I understood when they said that, unfortunately, I do have to incorporate like my personal life in order to become more interesting to like a mainstream audience. And I do feel like that's probably going to be making the biggest moves because I think for those that don't understand the life of a poker player, like the poker playing aspect might be interesting, but it's like, how do you incorporate these really odd schedules into your like daily life? And of course that generates a lot of drama for any of your loved ones because they don't understand our weird hours and not really being able to tell them when we're going to be coming home.
Right. MTV Cribs. So you let them inside the house?
I let them inside the house. I know. I was like, oh, this sucks.
My dogs would have hated that.
Oh, you know what? They let my dogs roam freely and be part of it because I did say that. And I do even bring one of my dogs to the poker table all the time.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And look, they were friendly and everything. But of course, you've got like a 10-man crew in your house and even in your car. Right. So like there's that part of it is a little unnatural, but the conversations you have are real. And they are real issues that we deal with our loved ones. And, you know, people always wonder. And something that even came to light is like, why don't more women play poker? And you really get to see that side of it because I don't have children, but I know that if I did, it would be really difficult to be a poker player, especially since like some tournaments can last 2 hours or 14 hours. And if you have somebody, you really have to have a lot of support at home. If, you know, like if you're a mother and whatnot. So I can see like, you'll see why there is a little bit more of a disparity when you get into the lives of others that play poker, because I think that's where the divide is when it comes to more men playing poker than women, which unfortunately is still something that like the industry really, like grapples with. We have a really, really hard time growing the sport in women. I think we've made some advancements, but it hasn't happened as quickly as the amount of funding that's going into it has.
Yeah, I've been perplexed by that. I think with Kristen Foxen's run this year, it might change a little bit, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, she's one of the best poker players. I think it would have done volumes if she had made it to the final table. She was very close. But yeah, there's always like, everybody like knows the best poker players that are women. And everybody kind of like knows any poker player that's well known for whatever reason. That's a woman, because one, there's not that many of us, and I don't know what the statistic is. It's somewhere like 4 to 8% max, 8% being on like top of the line that even played in like the World Series of Poker. I think it was closer to 4 this year, which is unfortunate. So like it is interesting. Like when I sit at a table and there's another woman, it's almost like we know each other. Like we don't, but we do tend to usually know each other. I've been playing like long enough now that I almost know every poker player that I sit with. That is a woman. And so it's like you get excited. It shouldn't be like that. It should be that there's like, it's 50-50 at every table, but it just isn't the case. But I think when you see the reality side of what it's like to kind of like incorporate poker into your personal life, which is what you see in this reality show, you'll see like the difficulty of being a woman in the industry versus a man.
Yeah, I'll check that show out for sure. So you said you made your money in biotech, biopharmaceutical.
Yes.
What was that about?
Well, I was on the business side of it. And so like I come from a family that really like stressed the importance of education. It's all doctors and physicists. Really, my dad is literally a physicist and my mom's a physician. And so I grew up in an environment where education was first and foremost. And so of course I had to take a certain route. I didn't want to be a physician at the time. I remember I also disappointed my dad that I didn't want to take the science route. So I picked like a more business approach of that. And I did everything my parents wanted to do. You go to a really good college, you get your master's, and I jumped into the world of the biopharmaceutical industry of creating drugs primarily in cancer when I left. And it was interesting because it was like very innovative and fascinating. And the lobbying side of it really intrigued me. But like I said, the doors did close during the pandemic, and I realized that I was living a very systematic kind of private life that I couldn't make very public because you're working for a big corporation that's creating new drugs. So I learned a lot from that. And I think that one of the things that people are really perplexed by when somebody comes out of nowhere when they even play poker is that like, there's 2 different poker players. There's the ones that start from, like I said, at a young age, and then those that might even be interested in coming a little bit later. And the ones that come later bring a different experience. Like it doesn't really matter how many years you played. It's really like the level, like the experience you bring at the table. And I learned a lot in my experience in a completely different industry that helped me have the level of confidence that I did when I played poker. People wonder like, how did you jump into high stakes? Didn't matter for me. I wasn't concerned with like the stress or the pressure of other players. I could have cared less if you're a big name. I really didn't even know if anybody was. And if they were, it didn't matter to me because I created a name for myself in a different industry. So I knew what it already took to be like somebody from the bottom and working your way up to the top in a completely different industry. And for me, bringing that experience to any new industry wasn't going to change my level of confidence and thinking that I could thrive in it because I'd already done it. So, kind of having that level of experience behind me is, I think, why I kind of accelerated a little bit faster than others would. So that's what I love about poker, too. It doesn't matter what age you are and who you are. You can come in at any time and thrive. You just have to have kind of like the confidence to be sitting at the table with anyone who thinks that they're better than you. And it's okay if you're the worst person at the table if you got a seat.
Right.
It's just about being able to survive.
Were you winning right away, though?
I think I had what you call beginner's luck.
Classic.
And I jumped but listen, there's a lot of people that like grew during the pandemic and then they kind of fell off the face of the earth because those skill sets worked then and their environment kind of fostered whatever they were doing at the time. And I think I'm thinking more of like certain content creators that really could offer nothing less and people just started talking a little bit less. There's also other apps that kind of just like fell apart, like Clubhouse and stuff. Everybody was like on Clubhouse, right? But it didn't work in the real world because now we had interaction with each other physically. And during the pandemic, I was playing in games that were really, really easy because it was games that were near me and individuals that were now don't have the time to play poker that weren't very good at it.
Yeah.
So when I got lucky amongst those that were okay with spending their money playing a game that they weren't really good at. And me having been brand new at really playing at at those stakes and at that level, was able to find what I felt was like easy success at the time. I got luckier than most, and I wasn't my competition wasn't that difficult. And then I came into the real world where everybody else came out of the woodworks, and I realized like, wow, I should probably really study.
Yeah.
And even now it's, I get like, I really think about the importance of studying, and I've always had a high level of respect for those that have put in the hours and the time, but it's really like those that have played a lot more hands just do better at the game. So there's that understanding that you need to have of the game. And if I'm going to sit at a bigger game, I do want to be a little bit more steady than I used to be in the past.
Yeah. So COVID, were you wearing masks too when you were playing then?
We were supposed to be, yeah.
I feel like that's a controversial thing I see on Twitter now.
So there are those that continue to wear masks, and they'll use that as like their COVID, or like the concern of having it, like not spreading disease or getting it from anybody, as like an advantage. Because of course you're giving away, like you're limiting any tells that you could potentially give away. Isaac, I think, is one of
I didn't want to name him, but
I know, but like at the end of the day, can I be honest with you? He'd probably be just as good without it.
You think so?
Yeah, he was a phenomenal poker player before. I don't think that it might be irritating to those, and it's something to talk about.
He gets so much hate for it. It's crazy.
He does get hate for it. And I'll be honest with you, I don't even know what he looks like in real life. Because when I started playing poker, he was wearing a mask.
That's funny. But yeah, you're right though. He was good before, but
yeah, he was really good before. So like if you'd have to literally do an experiment where you put like Isaac like without a mask, or with like take his last 3 years and somehow convince him not to wear a mask in the next 3 years, and then do like a comparative experiment as far as like what his success rate is. But then there's so many other obstacles and like other control issues that come into play that you couldn't really do it adequately. But that being said, I feel like it's one of those things that it gives people a reason to talk. But he was a phenomenal player before, and if he wants to wear a mask, you let him wear a mask. It's the same as saying like,
I know Ivy's against those, and sunglasses, I believe, as well.
Yeah, sunglasses I can see. I just like I saw a commercial on like Ray-Bans that have a camera, and I thought like, oh my gosh, you can't wear that. But then I thought, wow, that's really good for a content creator. Like these Ray-Bans that have like a camera, and you can watch, like you're watching it, and instead of having to have your like camera out and whatever, you could just record it. But then you might capture something that somebody might say is like gives you an advantage over others, or like not everybody wants to be recorded at the poker table. They don't want their faces shown or whatnot. But like I can see where sunglasses can end up being a little bit of an issue. But there's issues with even like contact lenses now that people can see like certain things. Like we just have so many different methods of concern that can come at the poker table. I think it's really just about controlling the controllables and not worrying about the fact that like we can't be above technological advancements. We just have to somehow incorporate them into our lives. But we can't take away every resource that a human being needs to survive. And unfortunately, having your phone, is one of those things that I think I would absolutely freak out about if they took that away in the tournament setting. If you don't want me to wear sunglasses, sure, I don't give a shit. I don't need to wear sunglasses. It's not like the sun is shining on the table.
Are they taking it away because of that main table drama that happened?
Well, like even if you think about live streaming, we can't have phones when we live stream. It's always something that has to happen for like a certain thing to be taken away from us, right? Like, unfortunately, that's just the way life is. Like, even if you think about like plane crashes or something bad has to happen for somebody to bring light to the fact that we need to wear seatbelts when we drive. Multiple accidents have to happen before we realize that. We need airbags, things like that. So unfortunately, that part hasn't changed. And it took somebody like literally utilizing their phone to supposedly cheat for phones to be taken away from a live streaming perspective. And then now you even know that there's a time delay and everything. So I don't know if it's going to take a specific incident for that for it to be taken away. But the argument can be made that there are certain advantages and certain things people can do on their phone, of course, that might work in their favor while they're playing poker. It's a really like a heavy thought to think that could be something that they take away, or maybe they just give us maybe they just control our phones in such a way that we're only able to listen to music or
open certain apps, right?
Yeah, and that could like it's gonna be one of those things we're just gonna have to like. I guess it's gonna get more jobs.
Yeah. So that happened on a live stream. Someone got caught using their phone.
That's why we can't have phones on a live stream, and why there's.
What was he doing? Using a solver?
It was before my time. And like, look, I was also accused of cheating on a live stream as well. And I think it was a story right before mine. But like, from what I'm told, there was multiple hours and multiple games where it was very evidently clear that he looked down at his phone every time.
Oh,
And he
I
had
think
a
I
really
saw
high
this.
win rate. He had a really high win rate.
Yeah, I think I saw this actually.
And it
Wow.
actually ended that live stream completely. So there was that concern, like we have a scandal going on right now at the Hustler Casino Live about whether the recent scandal, like regarding like sexual harassment,
Yeah, Nick.
stuff is gonna end that live stream. But I really think it's about like coming ahead and having a conversation with the world about it, because the one thing that particular casino up north didn't do was they didn't address it with like the public that was watching their live stream, and they just tried to like ignore it, got rid of the player and move on. And it was that level of like, I guess, like disconnect with the world
Right.
that made them lose their live stream altogether. And then Hustler Casino showed up and thrived. You know, they were the first ones to do it right.
Yeah, you got to take accountability, right?
Yeah,
if
for
you're
sure.
providing the setting.
I think
and
Ryan did do that, the other producer. I was.
Yeah. I think they'll come back. He's been pretty on top of it, right?
I mean, it's just the best live stream right now. Look, I mean, I haven't been back on it. I haven't asked to go back on it. I don't think that I would be allowed back on it unless like maybe Garrett was allowed back on it. He's definitely not going back.
Did they kick both of you out? How did that work?
I know that he's not allowed to go back. And my assumption is that I am not. I'm purposely not asking. I don't have any desire to. There's still some level of PTSD that I have, like even walking into that casino, but I never really walked into that casino before. So I'm not like really missing out on anything. The only reason I even walked into Hustler Casino altogether, cool casino, was because of the live stream. So, you know, I played 3 live streams and then the hand happened and I was out. So I haven't asked. And I think I just don't want to put him in a position where he'd have to say no or yes, or have to kind of grapple with the idea of like, what do I do if she comes back? And maybe one day it will happen. I think it might happen. It's just a matter of it being like the right time that it happens. And I know it would cause a lot of chaos.
Yeah. It reminds me of, I don't know if you follow chess, but do you know Hans Neiman?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, you remind me of that story, you know,
Yeah.
where he got accused and then no evidence came about.
Right.
And now he's like back in the tournaments
Right.
and he's crushing it.
Yeah, he's crushing it. Like it's one of those things. Like it was a one-off, and it was same with like my situation. It was a one-off. If there was other incidences where it looked really clear, I think it would be more of an issue. And like, look, the debate can be made, like, you know, of the fact that like, oh, it made me bigger and it bettered my career or whatever. It made me more notable in the world, but I didn't ask for it. I just embraced whatever had happened. And it was hard in the beginning, but I'm at a point now where I'm like, wow, it's so crazy that can happen to somebody. And you can take what was originally seen as like, it was just so shocking at the time. And I created an opportunity out of it. And it didn't, what's more than interesting is that it didn't take the love of the game out for me.
That's good.
If anything, I was really sad if I'd have to like never play. I knew I would always be playing poker. But like to be as invited and welcome back in any game all the time, it was like a really comforting part of it. And then also to see that I had like so many supporters out there that wanted me to continue playing and sharing my story was very cool.
It was wild to see the change in support during that, because at first everyone sided with one side and then it like everyone sided with you and then it kept going back and forth. I've never seen that in a battle.
You know, you always hear like the truth is stranger than fiction. And I feel like that's what sort of happened. In the beginning, there was like, and I know I lost a lot of supporters when like that situation with Brian, what's his face, came and they found out that the 15K was off my stack, because I was just kind of like a weird part of it that didn't really make sense. And it's just one of those things, if you really look at, like, I'm a documentary junkie and documentaries are far more interesting than fictional stories. Because the truth is always stranger than fiction. There's a part of me that just doesn't understand why those certain elements did happen in that particular case, that were only really like discovered during the investigation. But it really just was coincidence, and it changed like this whole flow. But like I don't know if it's just the way that I've set up my social media. All I see is supporters.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, to be fair, same, because at first it was all hate. Like when it first happened.
Yeah.
All hate, and I'm sure you dealt with that, and it was
Yeah.
tough on you mentally. And then I saw it like completely turn over time.
Right.
Because I
It's
think
so crazy.
when there's no physical evidence or whatever, you know,
There's nothing.
It's
Yeah.
been a year now, right? So.
For sure. And like, I think that one thing that I didn't realize, and I didn't even do it purposely, I feel, and people always wonder, like, when you're telling the truth about something, do you stay quiet or do you fight? And I was a fighter. I was like, I am not going to let the world think this of me. And I came out and I started fighting. And I didn't realize it about myself. You always hear about like the fight, flight, or like, like freeze type of response. And for me, I just fought it because that was like my character that was being put into question. And nobody knew me in the poker industry. Of course, there was a huge number of people that did because I'd been playing already for a year. But those that were like accusing me, they didn't know anything about me. And I felt like a very strong need to kind of defend my character and who I am as a person, even though the people that matter to me already knew that, the truth. But for me, like the whole world was attacking me. And I was like, hell no, I'm not going to do this, especially since I know my truth and I know that I didn't cheat. And this is bullshit. It's not fair that I'm treated this way for something I didn't do. Hats
off to you, because I've had some haters make videos about me and I don't respond. I don't know if that's the right method, but I feel like
it is the right method.
You think so?
I just did a reality show on USA, Peacock. It's still going. I was eliminated already, episode 5. And it's a very cool reality show called The Anonymous game show, obviously competitive. And, we had a lot of therapy going through that show, especially coming off of that show, which I found really fascinating that they had that because I didn't think that I really needed it. I was already kind of in the limelight as far as it comes to like the criticism that I had already received from my experience. And I brought a different type of experience to the contestants. There were some big name contestants on there, like they had like Xavier who had won Big Brother and whatnot. But the one thing I did realize is that like people need to get some kind of assistance when it comes to like the social media, like disrespect that can come from being like a public figure out there. And we had psychiatrists that really walked us through how do you deal with the negative comments about you. And for me, it was like, I felt like I was just giving advice. You just ignore it. I know individuals that have hired a media team, and I did do this in the beginning. I hired a media team for like 3 weeks or whatnot and realized like, I don't need them anymore, to go through all the negative comments, delete them, block the individuals.
Wow.
Because at that time it was just a heavy weight on me. Now I just laugh at them. I have this like need to almost respond to them. And I do know that if I respond, I give them weighting, especially if you have like a certain presence anymore, that comment's going to go to the top. So they're going to get what they want, which is to get you to respond. But I have fun with it now. And I really, and it's more comical to me than it was in the beginning. And I'm not offended, like literally at all. And it's such a crazy, I don't know if it's just like I woke up one day and I didn't give a shit anymore, but I feel like that's the way that you can thrive, is just to absolutely come to a place with yourself where you just don't give a shit. Because it's like those people will always be significantly less than those that support and are on your side. And it's the ones that I think that get affected by the ones that are saying the negative things that see themselves incapable of continue to have a public presence in the world.
Yeah, that's a great headspace to be in. It took some time for me to get there as well. At first, I used to let the comments get to me. Now I got thousands of hate last week comments because I had on this political episode and I was getting roasted and stuff, but it didn't even affect me.
I mean, but your job isn't to know the person, everything about the person that you're obviously interviewing, because at the end of the day, they're on there for their level of expertise that obviously you can't have. You can't be the jack of all trades.
Well, it was just a super liberal guy, and my audience is pretty conservative.
Yeah, so I could see that.
Yeah,
and like one of the things that I was told was like never make it political. And it's so because all Twitter is like the poker community communicates the most on the world of Twitter, and you just like it's so irritating to see that like there are those that just completely thrive on like their political perspectives. And of course they have the following that follows them. And I actually just threw out like a silly tweet or something like my vote doesn't count, because I knew that it would just get people friggin' like up in like arms. And at the bottom I was like, if you actually believe me, you're an idiot. Just like see it. And I do feel like it's really fascinating how much that can divide us. So I try really, really hard just to stay away from the political arena. Yeah. It's hard to do. Everyone has an opinion, but I think that like that's probably one of the best ways to create like 50% of people hating you, because unfortunately
it's the quickest way.
That divided.
Yeah,
Then there's like a small percentage that kind of exists in their own independent platform, but we all really can only be voting for one of the two candidates. I can't wait till this election period is over.
Same.
Because I'm so tired of talking about it, and I feel like I don't want to dismiss anybody that asks me about my perspective, but I also just don't want to have that debate. And I feel like there's just no winner in the end, and it can only make you look worse.
Yeah, you probably get asked that daily.
I do. They're like, why don't you, like, what with your platform and your voice, like, what do you want me to do? Do you know what I mean? Like, I even, to be perfectly honest, I'm like curious. I'm not voting. It's come down to the point where you're almost like voting for the more intelligent candidate.
Yeah.
I wish we had other options, or like, when I was in the world of the biopharmaceutical industry, I wanted to go towards the individual that supported innovation and research.
Yeah.
And that always kind of like leaned heavily on the Republican side, because I was all about creating new drugs to finally find a cure for cancer, and like I got attacked for evil pharma. Do like this and that and stuff. Everyone has a perspective. There's only so much we can do. It's like often like when my dad says, like when I was younger and I was like, Dad, like I'm not going to, like, if I donate this $1 to charity, it's all going to go to the person that created charity. We don't know where it's going to go.
Yep.
It's like, even if 1 penny goes to the person that actually needs it, that's 1 penny more than 0. So there's only so much we can do as human beings. Like all I can do is at least like pick the candidate that supports the industry and my belief systems a little bit more and can make sure certain laws are in place that might support that. Like I'm all about innovation. And, like I think Elon Musk is like a hero. Some people see him as like this evil source. Like I'm like going heavy and deep into AI right now. So I'm going to support the candidate that I feel like supports AI and innovation and development. And like we're in a very advanced digital stage. So it's less about like what party I'm part of. It's more about like who supports my ideology moving forward.
Yeah, you're a rare breed out here in Cali voting for the team, man.
I mean, like I haven't even decided yet, and that really is what it comes down to. But like again, like where it's the electoral vote is very different than popular vote. So then there's that concern of like, well, you can have certain belief systems and whatnot, but I'm not going to change the world by my vote.
Yeah.
All I can do is like kind of support what my interests are. And if my interest is in technological advancement, I'm kind of going like the Elon Musk route because I feel like what he's doing is huge and I want to be a part of that movement.
Would you get one of those robots you just released?
Absolutely. I'd be the first ones.
I'm a little skeptical of those.
Like you always hear people saying like we're being replaced by robots. And like, I hate to say it, but like there's a certain level of ignorance that has to come to those that actually believe that robots are going to replace human beings. I feel like that there's like these people have like the same predisposition into thinking like technological advancements are going to take over our minds as they did when computers came out. When computers came out, yeah, it took away some jobs, but it also created a phenomenal job known as coding that has been one of the most like in demand positions of all time.
Right.
Like people wish that they got back into coding. If you want to be part of like that dream that coders, people wished when people started coding back in the day, you can be part of that movement now because we need AI prompters. Like we need support to get AI moving. Like AI isn't AI unless you prompt it to be AI, right now. And there's going to be a new like herd of individuals that have skill sets that we absolutely need in order for AI to thrive. Like ChatGPT doesn't work unless you prompt it to work. Really nothing does. Like I'm like heavy on AI animation right now. I had absolutely no interest growing up when I was growing up, when it came to like film. I suck at content creating. I've paid content creators like more than a teacher's salary to create content for me. And I can't even give them the video that they would need to create the content. Like I've had people working for me for free. That's how much I dislike content creating. But what I realized that I do like that I never thought that I liked before was like creating AI images and AI animation. And I was never really interested in that before. So I think that the other interesting thing about the AI movement is that it's creating more skill sets and individuals that may not have been interested in like the basic like film work before, right? For me, that's what it was. I love technology and somehow incorporated it into art. And when I wake up, I think of two things. I think of like AI and I think about poker. I really do. And those are the two things I think about. And I like moan and huff and puff through like any content that I have to do. But I've also realized that I'm better off doing my content on my own because I work at my own pace and it's got really costly to pay others to do something that I wasn't giving them anything to do. So the fascinating thing I think about like the advancements and the opportunities that we have today is I really do believe that in society right now, as we speak, everybody has something to offer because people always worry about their purpose and their place in life. I do not think that robots are something to be concerned about. I think that we, instead of looking at it as a threat, we have to look at it as an opportunity. And I think that actually the higher like intelligence is heavily weighed on those that see opportunity over a threat in any endeavor that we like have to face. We can't get rid of AI. We can't get rid of technological advancements in this very advanced digital stage, but we can learn to incorporate it and we can monetize it monetize from it heavily. And you could do it from the confinements of your home. Like we already learned during the pandemic that we can make so much money within the walls of our house.
Yeah.
Like it should be a blessing that you're able to do anything online, and you wouldn't be able to do it without technology within the confinements of your home. Robots aren't something to be scared of. They're something that we should incorporate and find, and we just need to find our place in the society. I do feel like everybody has a certain skill set, and if you don't know your purpose, you just have to figure out what it is that you absolutely love doing, because there's a 100% a way to monetize from that if you just incorporate like the tools that we have today to help you get there. Like for me, I loved art, but I didn't love it enough to pick up a paintbrush. The moment it was available to me through this like AI kind of like avenue, I'm able to do that whenever I want, however I want, and monetize from it when people look at my like animation, because right now it's still the very beginning and everybody has those tools at their discretion. All you have to do is watch a bunch of YouTube, which is literally what I did.
YouTube University, baby.
YouTube University.
Yeah, you can monetize anything these days.
Yeah.
You're going to get a Neuralink, aren't you?
What's that?
That's the chip Elon Musk
and
made.
now like Mark of the Beast and all this kind of crazy shit. I've always thought from the very beginning that there would be a lot less kidnappings if everybody just got a microchip in them like we do to dogs.
Dogs get it, yeah.
But dogs are different, right? Like the microchips don't actually work until somebody delivers your dog to the vet, and then they're able to see who the owner is. So unfortunately, with all the crime that's in this world, which is it's not as rampant as it used to be, of course, because of DNA, thank God. I think there's a lot less serial killers, so to speak, and like that actually is true. But I do feel like we could really limit a lot of crime that we're facing if we're able to track individuals. Like it sounds like I'm talking about like a Black Mirror episode, right? And it's so unfortunate because of course there's like when iRobot came out, that Will Smith movie, like yeah, it can go wrong. It can absolutely go wrong. If you look at the dark web, for example, it was created for espionage. And it was only a way for method for, everybody to communicate kind of underground with absolutely no way of figuring out anyone's IP address. And like now it's utilized for, like the black market for organs and drug trade and everything. And it isn't for, and the worst, obviously, trafficking, sex trafficking and everything. So it is unfortunate that we could take like a technological advancement and we've just lost control of it in a way. But like, if that's going to happen inevitably, you've got to figure out a way to find a way to incorporate that in a more positive light, and then incorporate it in a way that you can monetize from it so that it doesn't feel like a threat, but it feels like an opportunity.
Yeah, I'd love to see you sit down with Liv Bourret and talk AI with her. She's a little frightened.
Is she?
It'd be a good conversation.
She against it or for it?
She's both.
Okay.
Yeah, I think she's a little scared of it, but I think she sees the benefit as well.
Yeah, I think we have to see the benefit of it because it's one of those things. It's like, I mean, I'd rather have, I don't know, a septic tank today than a hole in the ground like we did like 100 years ago, right? Like we have to appreciate the technological advancements that we've had. And we have to appreciate that this is all done because of us and our level of intelligence. Like AI was created through the human mind. So if you appreciate your own intelligence and you appreciate that it is survival of the fittest and you are a fit individual, how can you not survive in an AI world that you created?
I use it daily. It's helped me a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't even Google anymore. I used to Google things. I just asked ChatGPT.
Nah, Google's been, it's compromised.
Yeah.
Obviously, the top results are like either paid for or influenced by someone.
Yeah. Like so. I just, and look, it's not perfect. It's actually really far from perfect. Even if you look at like animation, like every human somehow has 6 fingers and it's irritating. So it's like obviously, but like the amount that it is developing is insanity. There's a guy I follow and he always has some kind of like new product or new program that has come. And it's usually given by like Adobe, one of like the bigger people. But like, look, there's a lot going on in Silicon Valley as far as like the new apps and like the new programs that are being and platforms that are being put into place right now that are going to help us kind of just like better and ease our lives. Like this is supposed to make our life easier.
Yep.
And it is, it's going to be, it's crazy, but like people are going to be able to a robot's going to be able to cook for you. It's going to be able to do anything for you. And I will be the first person to own a robot as soon as that's made available. And I think it's only $20,000. Elon's making like, he already like, they kind of like, I don't know if they like launched it, but they
I think it launched, yeah.
Yeah, it's only $20,000 robot.
Let me know how it goes. Maybe down the road I'll get one. I got a Tesla eventually, so.
Exactly. And it's just like the Tesla movement. How can you be upset about driverless cars when we ourselves, if you just look at the data, we're far more dangerous behind the wheel than driverless.
100%. Well, texting and driving is probably, and drunk driving.
I mean, it's insanity. And like, I don't understand why everyone is so fearful. It looks strange, and it's something that you have to get comfortable with, like seeing and used to seeing. But it really should, if you just look at the data, I mean, the safety measures when it comes to letting like the computer run our lives is like far more like, I think that it's not only safe for the younger generations to come, but I just feel like it supports anything that we've always wanted to do that we feel like we've never had the capabilities or access to doing. So I cannot even seem to understand those that feel like that we're going to be replaced. If anything, the parts of us that are going to be replaced are the parts that need it too. And that's like our inability to stay like attentive at a task that demands our attention, like driving.
Yeah.
Especially in like a highly like computerized world where we are spending most of our time on social media. Like we have to let somebody else take the wheel. And if it's an AI individual, we're going to be leading much safer and like even productive lives because we can finally distract ourselves to doing what we want to do and not be 100% on point when it comes to attention.
Absolutely. Robbie, it's been fun. Where can people find you and keep up with you?
Well, obviously social media. I'm Robbie Jade Lew almost on everything. And I'm playing a lot of poker. But of course, like I do have this like love for technology. So I do want to somehow incorporate that world into my poker playing life.
Boom. We'll link your socials below. Yeah. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.